Good morning, Union. How are we doing today? So before I begin the sermon, we must all be on the same page as to how the structure is going. Bear with me. There is a three-worded phrase that will be repeated throughout the sermon. Advent is here. Now, when I say this phrase, I would like us all to say it together as one body of Christ. So when I say Advent is here, we all say Advent is here. Perfect. Love it. Glad we're on the same page. It's that time of the year again, Union. Christmas lights are hung. Christmas trees are towering in our living rooms. The smell of pine and cinnamon wafts through your house. And the iconic Christmas manger scene is on the table. Advent is here.
Advent is here.
Awesome. The manger scene characterized by fluffy sheep, comfy hay, smiley goats, and a clean and pure baby. It's a scene that is easy to have hope in. In the winter of 1999, I was helping my feisty Italian grandmother, sweet Ida Tarano, arrange the family heirloom Christmas manger scene. The little porcelain figures were wrapped one by one and placed in their respective eternal positions. Yet there was one issue. The little Tommy, helping his grandmother Ida arrange the family heirloom manger scene, did something incredibly disastrous. As I took the porcelain baby Jesus out of the old 1950s newspaper wrappings, I decided that it would be a brilliant idea to toss the baby Jesus to my grandmother. Now, many of you don't know Ida, but she's not someone who is known for her quick reflexes. Baby Jesus fell onto the hardwood floor and shattered. Yes, Union, I broke Jesus. Now, some of you may be wondering, why am I opening with this? This fluffy manger scene, a scene that we associate with Christmas, is not actually the lived experience of what Christmas is. The fluffy, polished, easy-to-swallow portrayal of Christmas manger scene is often our initial image of the event of Christmas. We live in a society quick to smooth over the messiness of Christmas. We live in a society that jumps to the birth of Christ without remaining faithful to the experience of Advent. Thus, my hope in this sermon is to develop an understanding of Advent that is critical and faithful to the lived experience of many. All as one, Advent is here. The beginning of the chapter 3 of the Gospel of Luke, the writer goes to great length to describe the political realities experienced in ancient Israel. In the 15th year of Emperor Tiberius, Pontius Pilate was governor over Judea, Herod was the ruler of the Galilee, and his brother Philip, ruler of the surrounding regions. The text goes to great length to construct that these 7 rulers are in power in the region of Israel. These 7 rulers who had no origin in the land of Israel. The foreign empire Rome has total control over the governing structures of the region. The governor of the land, along with his local rulers, and even the high priesthood and temple system are puppets of the Roman government. The worship and structures necessary for communal life are no longer living faithfully. Thus, what is the response? John the Baptist begins the formation of an alternative community captured by a spirit that runs counter to empire. Advent is here. Now, Union, you may be wondering where I'm going with this, but I promise there's a point. The gospel text for the second Sunday of Advent commands us to look forward to a time when the valleys are filled and the mountains shall be made low. The crooked shall be made straight and the rough ways made smooth. The gospel text of this second Sunday of Advent gives us hope to those who are suffering today. Military occupation, unjust political rulers, and snakes in the pulpit leading the masses astray far too often appear in the newspaper headlines. The community seeking after God are stuck in a system that perpetuates violence against certain types of bodies. It is easy to feel hopeless when we consume the news of the present day. Advent is here. In 2018, Union, I do not know how to even begin to prepare a space for the Lord. I do not know how to prepare a space for a helpless baby entering the world 14 days from now that I shattered on my grandmother's floor. I do not know how to prepare a space when violence seems more natural than breathing. I do not know how to prepare a space when our violence to the very earth is deemed a progressive conspiracy. I do not know how to prepare a space when our lust for war and violence distorts our ability to recognize those across boundary lines as loving, breathing, and loving human beings. I do not know how to prepare a space for the Lord when violence against darker-skinned bodies is dismissed, unrecognized, and even championed by the leader of a nation. I do not know how to prepare a space for the Lord when violence seems more natural than breathing. It is difficult to imagine the event of Christmas in the world. How can hope exist amidst prevailing suffering? Where the hell do we begin? A space of waiting, a space of longing for God, for Jesus, and for the Spirit. Advent is a space of remaining. The hope of Christmas is not here just yet. The community longing after God lives day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second, forever thirsting for God's prophetic, restorative love. Advent is a reminder that Christ has not yet come again, and we are called to remain faithful in the struggle. Advent is here. Advent is a deconstruction of the notion that we can turn a blind eye towards injustice, a deconstruction of the notion that we can remain ignorant of abuse. Advent is here. Advent is a rejection of the consumeristic Christmas experience built on the premise of abusing young foreign bodies for cheap labor to produce low-quality goods that will end up in a landfill 6 months later. Advent is here. Advent is the hope that the community longing after Christ will remain faithful to the calling of Christ in a time where hope feels like a fading, flickering candle. Advent is here. Advent is a reminder that you are not alone in your thirst for justice. There is an entire community of Christ beside you. Advent is here. Advent propels the community of God to bring about the message of love to all bodies, all communities, and all institutions. Advent is here. In the Advent of 2018, we have the spoil already. We know that Jesus is coming soon, birthed in a messy, dirty, bloody, shattered manger. We know that the creator of the entire cosmos, the creator of the earth, and the creator of the very blood in our bodies comes to this earth in the form of an innocent, helpless baby brought to the manger as a political refugee after escaping Herod's violent desires. We must live faithfully to the time of Advent when we do not know the event of Christ is occurring, a space that feels too real for our present day. So where is John the Baptist? In the wilderness. The wilderness is a barren and hostile space, a space that is void of resources, and the space that is void of a community necessary to live. John the Baptist leads a crowd of sinners, tax collectors, and even Roman soldiers, those who had been rejected by the ruling elites, John the Baptist is leading a community of those deemed unworthy by society to build a revolutionary love. Imagining an alternative community built on the premise of the foundations of a grounded love and restoration, John commands those cast out in the wilderness to clothe the naked, feed the hungry, and even provide economic restoration to those utterly crushed by the system. Advent is here. Yes, beloved Union, Advent is a lived social reality. Advent is a lived social reality built on the premises of living faithfully to God's restorative calling in a time when hope is fleeting. Yes, Union, it is the call of the gospel to make disciples of those rejected by the ruling elites in the space of a wilderness. Yes, Union, if you are experiencing the barrenness of the wilderness, please rest in the hope that Jesus will guide our feet towards peace. According to the prophet Malachi, the Lord will be an advocate for those oppressed via economic injustice. The Lord will be an advocate for the refugee casted aside, and the Lord will be an advocate for the poor, orphan, and the widow. Advent is the church's opportunity to live out the calling of Christ before Christ has returned. In 2018, we do not know when Christ is coming back. But we better begin to imagine a world where our existence doesn't bring harm to one another. Rather, it is our call to live in such a way that brings life to every single living creature. From the neighbor down the street, to the person sitting in the pew next to you, to the tree that provides oxygen necessary for us to breathe. Yes, Union, it is a call to be a beacon of life to all creation. Advent is the space of remaining with the hope of God's oncoming embrace. To prepare a space for the Lord in the season of Advent is a holy calling. It is a just calling. It is a righteous calling. It is a calling to recognize an alternative way of being that runs counter to the natural, instinctual violence of 2018. Advent is the church's eternal posture. In the words of an LA hardcore punk band, it has to start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here? What better time than now? All hell can't stop us now. Prepare, Union. Hope is coming, but Advent is here. Thank you.